Hello, Peeps. Come and peep in the past.
The busy arcades of Warrington's shopping centre reflect the successful progress of the borough's growth and development. Less than 100 years ago, however, there would have been little, if any, evidence in the streets of Warrington to witness that the town was anything more than a smoke-begrimed product of the Industrial Revolution. It's fact that men roamed the district thousands of years ago. Indeed, the record of communities of people on the Meuse, now known to us as the River Mersey, is almost unbroken for the past 3,000 years. Reliable evidence on display at Warrington Museum shows that the river was crossed via a ford at Warrington by our prehistoric ancestors. These objects were discovered in the Grappenhall area in the early 1930s, enabling a route to be plotted on a map. When this is done, lines of marks show approaches to the river from both sides, crossing at Warrington. The ford, however, ceased to exist when the river's course was changed to serve the area's trade route after the year 1720. An ancient British word, werid, meaning ford, is thought by many antiquarians to be the origin of the name of Warrington, originally pronounced Warrington, which simply meant the town on the ford. Warrington later became Warrington. Once a bridge had been built across the River Mersey, which was first mentioned in a deed dated 1305, the town of Warrington began to develop. During the early years, the occupations and trades were varied and many. There were bowyers and arrow makers, millers, bakers and fishers, cooks who had bakehouses, blacksmiths and nailers, masons, thatchers, weavers, glovers, fullers who fulled cloth, and also shoemakers. During the 15th century, coal was discovered, and men to the north of Warrington began to work mines. This newfound source of fuel was soon replacing wood which was previously used. As the population grew, each new hearth put pressure on the town's fuel supply, increasing the demand for coal. Warrington saw its landscape change as the Industrial Revolution saw the gradual supersession of handicrafts and small-scale labour by machinery and mass production, with sugar refining, iron founding, file making, the manufacture of cotton goods and soap making. Warrington is also noted for its pin making and its copper smelting. The area is clearly becoming increasingly industrious. The River Mersey is now the major highway, and many operations are being carried out along its banks. Bank Quay has grown into a bustling port with its glassworks, Crossfield soapworks and Thomas Patton's copperworks. This farmland later became Crossfields Island. Although manufacturing industries were growing, they were seriously handicapped by the difficulties of transport on the appalling road surfaces, packhorse being the accepted method of goods conveyance. It was thought that the Sankey Brook could be made navigable, which would bring a new form of transport. But during its construction, a new waterway developed, and in 1762, Britain's first canal had arrived, enabling the much-needed coal to be brought from the neighbouring town of St Helens. The total amount carried in 1771 was 90,000 tonnes, of which 1/2 came to Warrington. Transporting goods became more efficient with the passing of the Turnpike Acts in the late 18th century. And the carriers' carts, which superseded the pack horse, vastly increased the volume of goods being carried by road. With the passage of time, most towns and cities have been replanned, often with the complete obliteration of their ancient streets. Warrington, however, maintains a strong identity with its past. Many of the town's street patterns remaining unchanged since medieval times, with some of its old buildings still standing. The Barley Mow in the Market Square, built in 1561, a fine example of early building works that employed timber and plaster in its construction. It was the old marketplace to where people would travel from all parts to trade a variety of goods, which included Welsh flannels and Irish linens, meat, grain, vegetables, and there'd be livestock traded at the fortnightly fairs. During the 19th century, it became Warrington's major stagecoach centre, with more than 60 coaches a day trundling the streets of the town and visiting inns such as the Old Lion in Bridge Street. Holy Trinity Church at Marketgate was built in 1760. The stone tower carries a wooden structure in which is housed the town's clock. The feature is a prominent landmark that can be seen from many parts of the district. Warrington's parish church, St Elphin's, is believed to have pre-Norman foundations. Much of the present building dates from a Victorian rebuilding in the late 1850s. The spire, which is the third tallest church spire in England, was added to the building in about 1860. The Botella family hold a prominent place in the town's history, with Sir Thomas Le Botella, the 15th Baron, being outstanding in his personal service to Warrington, his memory becoming enshrined here. His greatest claim to posterity is that he was the founder of Warrington Grammar School in 1552. Bank Hall, this magnificent building, the home of the Wilson Patten family, was constructed in 1750. It stood then amid fields on the edge of the town, with an open view of the Mersey. Its architect was James Gibbs, who was also believed to be the designer of Holy Trinity Church. In 1847, the town of Warrington, with a population of 20,000, became a corporate borough, with solicitor and eminent local historian William Beaumont becoming its first mayor. By 1873, the old town hall in the marketplace had become too small for the town's growing administration staff, and so ratepayers of the borough paid the princely sum of £9,500 to become the new owners of John Wilson Patten's stately residence, which has been Warrington's town hall ever since. The quaint facade of the old town hall has been rebuilt on its original site, which is now the Golden Square Shopping Centre, an exact replica which still maintains the characterful architecture of the old. The well-known golden gates were added to the new town hall some 20 years after its purchase. Industrialist Frederick Monks found them lying neglected in a foundry in Shropshire. And so why did they end up here in Warrington? Well, although there are several different stories, it's believed that the gates were commissioned by a livery company as a gift for Queen Victoria. The gates were erected for her inspection in Rotten Row, London. In the gateway stood a statue of Oliver Cromwell, which she found to be offensive, and so she refused the gift. Almost a century after they were brought to Warrington, the gates had become weathered and rusty with bits missing. There were also scars left by a lorry which had run into them, and so a firm from Buxton was called in to carry out restoration work at a cost of £33,000. A task of worldwide importance has been in progress for some time, and the announcement of its completion is made as Warrington dignitaries assemble on board the Helvetia for the official opening of the Manchester Ship Canal on January the 1st, 1894. The cost of building the canal was over £15 million. It is with civic pride that the staff of Parr Hall, the Lord Mayor, Town Hall staff, local dignitaries and guests reenact the pomp and ceremony of 100 years ago today.
Mr Mayor, this is the 100th anniversary of the Parr Hall. What does it mean to you as the town's leading citizen?
Well, it means a great lot to me, David. It's traditional and we're going back in time, and I think it's a wonderful event when you can go back in time to see what happened 100 years ago.
In 100 years we've been having entertainment at Warrington's Parr Hall, and over the past decade the entertainment's obviously changed over the 100 years, and now we're having more rock concerts and the like, and of course most of those didn't occur 100 years ago. Tonight we're wanting to celebrate what it was like exactly 100 years ago by holding exactly the same programme as performed by the Musical Society 100 years ago, plus the dress.
It was on September 26, 1895, that Parr Hall staged its very first event. It was a memorable occasion, described then as a grand concert. In 1895, grand meant regal, princely and elegant. I'm sure that there are many here this evening who have fond memories of the Friday night dances in the 40s and the 50s. In the 60s, Parr Hall was host to many top names: the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Who, and Tina Turner. However, Parr Hall is perhaps more famous as being the only venue in the Northwest that did not host the Beatles.
On Thursday, September the 26th, 1895, Mr. J. Charlton Parr formally hands over the deeds of the building, Parr Hall, to the Lord Mayor, who accepts them on behalf of the municipality. The hall will hold with fair comfort 2,000 people and has cost £10,000 to build. Parr Hall has built on its large stage one of the town's most precious heirlooms.
The Cavalcole organ that's behind me was fully refurbished in 1970, costing the council about £10,000, and has now been restored to its former glory. The organ actually wasn't built here originally. It was built in Bracewell Hall in Yorkshire in 1870, before coming here in 1926. And I'm led to believe that there's now only 2 or 3 in existence now in this original working order.
With the advent of electricity in 1900, electric tramcars began to replace the privately owned horse-drawn trams. The motorbus had arrived by 1913, and gradually they replaced the trams. The last tram journey in Warrington was August the 28th, 1935. During the year 1900, the Warrington Guardian carried many adverts which claimed miracle cures. Health for a shilling. Holloway pills could bring that extraordinary cure of loss of health, disordered stomach, indigestion, and determination of blood to the head. Beecham's pills, worth £1 a box, and Beecham's magic cough pill. The first dose will give relief in 20 minutes. Dr. William's pink pills, it's said in the advert, are responsible for the first Englishman, Mr. John Giles Rogers, aged 27, to be cured of tuberculosis consumption. There were also columns of adverts wanting housemaids and others helpers, with one which read, "Young servant wanted, £10 per annum." Will you be applying for the job? The art of brewing from malt has a long history in Warrington, although early in the 19th century little brewery ale was drunk. Keepers of public houses would brew from malt and hops in October and November, keeping the produce all year. In addition, pop, treacle beer and metal beer was also sold in small shops. By 1886, Greenall's, who'd been brewing fine ale since the late 18th century when they first established themselves in the town, had built their new impressive brewery at Wilderspool, claiming the firm are extensive maltsters and have all the latest improvements. Their greatest local rivals are Walker's, first established in 1852, who amongst their list of 500 employees are furnacemen, stokers, blacksmiths and carters, engineers, mechanics and coopers. As far back as 1633, it's known that tanning had become a part of Warrington's industrial scene, becoming by 1930 the country's largest tanning centre with around 20 tanneries. Only Whittles Brothers of Mersey Street remain. The town has a long association with wire and wire products. Rylands Wire Works was established in 1805. By the middle 1900s, their modern nail factory, with its 341 machines, was producing 100 tons of nails every 8 hours. The works have now gone from the site, and to the delight of shoppers in the borough, it's now occupied by Sainsbury's supermarket. The town also has an association with a different kind of wire, Warrington Rugby Club, The Wire. The club had several different homes during the early days. The first one, a field off Sankey Street, was ideal, as the pub across the road, the White Hart, provided changing rooms and also social facilities. However, this was to be short-lived. After the club's first season, Warrington Guardian purchased the land to build on. The home of The Wire is now here at Wilderspool. Their best season was probably 1973-74, when the man in charge, Alex Murphy, took them to Wembley to win the Rugby League Challenge Cup, beating Featherstone Rovers 24-9. The year 1913 brought King George V and his wife Queen Mary to Warrington during their industrial tour of the country. Flags and bunting adorned the streets, with children waiting excitedly for a glimpse of their majesties. On leaving the town hall, the Royal Motorcade drove along Sankey Street towards Joseph Crossfield's soap works, and after being welcomed to the works, the King and Queen were invited to look around the factory, where they saw the soap stamping machines and the workers packing Perfection and Pinkavolic household soaps. During the royal visit of July the 7th, 1913, King George opened the first half of the new bridge, which was to replace the old 20-foot wide Victoria Bridge of 1837, which, with a steadily increasing volume of traffic, had become clearly inadequate. The new bridge was revealed in all its glory in April 1915. To test the completed bridge's strength, 5 tramcars, each carrying about 24 passengers, and 2 steamrollers, weighing altogether a total of 95 tons, were driven onto the bridge as the crowd of onlookers stood watch. The Coronation Day preparations of 1937 are well underway, with organised committees to look after the many events that are to take place. And despite opposition from the town's clergy and womenfolk, extended drinking hours are granted for the occasion. George Kirkham of Warrington Cine Society is not letting the occasion go by without capturing the atmosphere with his Bolex camera. A myriad flags fly over Warrington roofs amid 12 hours of unceasing festivities. The pavements of some streets have been painted red, white and blue. And while the rich pageantry of the coronation in London got a soaking as it poured with rain, not a drop fell on the streets of Warrington. Changes to the borough hospital were also planned during 1937. This tree planting ceremony, performed by Warrington's Mayoress Dorothy Cooper, will mark the avenue leading from Lovely Lane to the new extensions when completed. Alderman P.J. Maron, the chairman of the Health Committee, said the ceremony was appropriate to the occasion and hoped that those who'd planted the trees would live to see them mature. Being the coronation year, the royal motif was very prominent for the event of Warrington Walking Day on July the 2nd, 1937. Union Jacks and bunting decorated the parade, which assembled at the town hall. The mile-long procession saw many churches and Sunday schools represented, including the Working Men's Mission Sunday School, who walked for the first time, as did St Augustine's of Canterbury and English Martyrs of Latchford. The parade included a bevy of queens. There were fairy queens, rose queens, flower queens and butterfly queens, who held their trains close to them as they hurried along. The Warrington and District Sunday School Union was represented in the procession, carrying a banner bearing the words, Warrington Sunday School Union, comprising 26 schools, 700 teachers and 4,320 scholars. Warrington is said to have the country's tallest police force. The town's chief constable, Mr. Martin Nichols, would only have policemen who measured 6 foot or more, which enabled them to tower above the crowds. If there are any boys or girls who haven't a flag or banner to carry, why not ask your dad for tuppence for a biff bat? And if you don't fancy walking with the parade, you can follow behind in a new car from PLP Motors of Liverpool Road in Warrington, where they have the Vauxhall National Demonstration Fleet on display. For £195, you can purchase the Standard Saloon, or £575 for a top-of-the-range Grosvenor Saloon. And in Buttermarket Street, you'll find Warrington Corporation electricity showrooms have this special offer. Own an electric refrigerator for only £2 and £6 a week on hire purchase, which seems to be the newfangled way to pay. Fresco teas, games, fun fairs, races and sideshows brought Warrington Walking Day to a happy close. The following year, on the 18th of May 1938, the town was to welcome the newly crowned King George VI and his wife Queen Elizabeth. Preparations had been taking place well in advance, with staging being erected at the foot of the town hall steps. railings and a walker fountain are given a new coat of paint, and the townsfolk of Warrington are decorating the street's lampposts and trees with bunting and Union Jacks. Two places have been set aside along Liverpool Road for scholars, as the King has asked especially to see school children, also ex-servicemen. As the King and Queen proceed through the streets, they're loudly acclaimed by the people who throng the gaily decorated route. At the town hall, their majesties leave their car and ascend the especially erected dais on which they receive the mayor and mayoress, along with 25 other prominent townspeople. The King inspects the Guard of Honour, drawn from the 4th Battalion, the Prince of Wales Volunteers. Approximately 500 children are assembled on the east and west sides of the lawn fronting the town hall. Warrington's royal visitors prepare to leave just before 4 o'clock. The motorcade will travel along Sankey Street, bound for their next destination, St Helens. This photograph, taken in 1938 from Bridgefoot, shows the narrow entrance to Wilderspool Causeway, which, 100 yards further on, was crossed by the busy Widnes to Altrincham railway line. Looking back towards Bridgefoot from the other side of the line, with the Chester Road coming in from the left, the level crossing is clearly visible. As long ago as 1871, the Warrington Town Council was concerned about the congestion caused by the level crossing, and so resolved on May the 2nd of that year that the London and North Western Railway Company be requested to do away with the several important level crossings on their lines of railway within the borough and replace them with bridges or otherwise, and that they be especially requested to do away with the level crossing on Wilderspool Causeway. But the intervening war years prevented any such building works from commencing. By now, the town of Warrington, along with the rest of the world, was bracing itself for the threat of what would become World War II. The town's air raid precautions service is trying to bring recruiting up to strength. It has only 560 ARP wardens and 125 persons enrolled for clearance work. Enrollment qualifications are that males should be medically and physically fit. By October 1938, approximate estimates for air raid precautions expenditure totaled £19,800. On October the 12th, 1938, Lord Derby unveils the memorial plaque to commemorate the supreme sacrifices of officers and men who fell in the Great War. The purpose is to inaugurate with pride and gratitude a tribute which will stand for all time to our great comrades who gave their lives for king and country. The hymn Lead Kindly Light was sung, after which the memorial lamp was lit by a candle borne from the sanctuary. Special offers to would-be house buyers of 1938 were being made in the local paper, and for the all-in price of only £415, you could own one of Wood End ideal homes. You were even given the choice of fire grate and decoration. Other bargains which can be found at the Co-op in Warrington include ladies' silk stockings at £1 a pair, men's athletic vests or trunks £1 each, and to clear, corsets at only 1 11 halfpenny. For the ladies, of course. Although wartime restrictions had precluded any public announcement of the royal tour on the 7th of March 1945, there was a cheering throng awaiting King George VI and his wife, Queen Elizabeth, as they drove from Winwick Hospital to the Warrington Town Hall. Many houses and shops were flying flags, and thousands of people, uniformed servicemen, nurses and children, marched to take up their positions. It was an exhilarating scene that awaited the King and Queen at the Town Hall, the steps to its entrance flanked by mace and sword bearers. The Mayor, adorned in his scarlet robes, awaits the royal visitors. Facing the town hall were 10,000 excited Warrington schoolchildren. Their waving Union Jacks formed a moving sea of colour. As the royal motorcade arrived, the children cheered and clapped, their majesties repeatedly acknowledging their welcome. They greeted the mayor and mayoress, after which the king and queen were introduced to several allied officers, shaking hands and chatting cordially with them, the town's coat of arms hanging over the balcony. After taking tea in the dining room, their majesties proceeded with their tour of the Borough Hospital, where patients, many of them victims of the war, were recovering. The narrow entrance to Wilderspool Causeway, with its dangers of the busy level crossing, is again the cause for concern. By 1948, the Wilderspool crossing had become a serious bottleneck, with queuing traffic obstructing Bridgefoot and Knutsford Road. Every year, congestion increased. A census taken in 1954 records that in one period of 16 hours, 12,000 vehicles passed over the crossing, and in the same period, the crossing gates were closed for a total of 3¼ hours. Although detailed plans had been prepared for the new bridge, the Second World War had stopped any progress. However, in 1950, anticipating approval of the scheme, Warrington Council acquired property on either side of the railway and commenced demolition, starting at the junction of the Causeway and Knutsford Road. Down came the Norton Arms Hotel, well known to farmers for miles around who attended the livestock sales there. But other landmarks, such as St James Church, remained and became even more prominent as open space increased. Today, there's a large roundabout here where Chester Road meets the Causeway. The Grand Cinema was the last landmark to go, a sad end for a building in which many thousands of Warrington's townspeople had been entertained. In all, the purchase of property and demolition has cost a total of £165,000 and involved over 23 shops, 47 dwelling houses, 2 hotels and the cinema. If you can't find him leaning on a lamppost or cleaning windows, there's one thing you could be sure of. George Formby would have his little ukulele in his hand. Born the son of George Formby in Wigan, his family moving to Warrington when he was a young boy, he decided to follow in his father's footsteps and become an entertainer after his father died, telling his mother that if anyone should imitate his father, it should be him.
His life started on the stage. It must have been about 2 weeks after his father's death. And young George and his mother went to London, and apparently they took a friend to London. And while they were in London, they called in at this theatre, and one of the artists was impersonating George's father. And George said to his mother, "Look, mother," he says, "if anybody's going to impersonate my father, it's going to be me." Well, George's mother was delighted with this, because, I mean, this is the sort of work that she'd been doing, travelling around with her husband to the different theatres. So she prepared him for the stage, and she knew all the scripts and everything, and although George had not been on the stage before, he had an idea what it was all about, and his debut was at Earlstown, at Fred Harrison's little theatre.
And so the gentle Lancashire lad began his career, winning the hearts of millions in a successful and prosperous career that spanned 40 years.
I tried so hard to do the double shuffle, but my fingers never seem to want me to. And when I start to strum, I seem to have 5 thumbs. It's not the way George Formby used to do. Now the neighbours have presented our petition and said that soon my mate and I shall meet. They've broken out me windows and boarded up me doors, and the bulldogs chase me up and down the street. But still I'm gonna play this.
Now, he gets a lot of tales about Beryl, you know, to say that she kept him down to 5 shillings a day pocket money. That's nonsense, that. He was soft-hearted, was George. And people would, like, be sponging off him, and he wouldn't want this, so he put the blame on Beryl. He said, "Well, I can't. I only get 5 shillings a day." It was a joke between them, but it wasn't true. He wasn't short of money at all. He could go out and buy a car whenever he wanted to.
Chinese laundries too. I tried so hard to do the double shuffle.
Aged 56, George died in hospital at Preston on March the 6th, 1961, just 10 weeks after he'd recorded what was to be his final concert. The funeral cortege arrived in the streets of Warrington at 12:30, where 120,000 people took George's last curtain. George's memory continues to live on in the music and songs of the George Formby Society, which, founded in 1961, boasts members from all parts of the world.
George Formby used to do, oh lordy, lordy, it's not the way George Formby used to do. Whoa!
The 1,000-ton sandhopper Mary Cooper sank in the Manchester Ship Canal in March 1961 after being in collision with another vessel. Thousands of people came from miles around to see this high drama, which happened near Stockton Heath Swing Bridge. The crew of 8 had to leap into the icy water and be helped to safety by local residents. Last to leave was skipper Harry Farmer, who plunged back into the flooding engine room to open the boiler escape valves, preventing a possible explosion. Divers worked for weeks to patch a large hole in the bows before the Mary Cooper could be refloated. Canal Company and Shipping Company estimated the total salvage cost would exceed £250,000. By 1973, redevelopment of the town centre has begun. dereliction and decay are giving way to the new Warrington, which promises to be a major centre of industry and commerce in the northwest of England. In a busy town like Warrington, waste ground awaiting development was very useful for car parking. But as rebuilding has to go ahead, this could only be temporary. It was therefore most important that one of the first priorities for the town's authorities should be the construction of a modern multi-storey car park and inner ring road. This was Golborne Street before it became the inner ring road. All the buildings along this street were demolished to make way for the new car park, including the Salem Baptist Church, which was rebuilt on Arpley Street. This is the Lee Street multi-storey car park after its opening in 1975, and as it was when demolition commenced. This was Regent Street, which had to go to make way for the car park. Seen here from the new inner ring road, with the old infirmary in Kendrick Street in the background. It was in 1973 the construction of the multi-storey car park commenced on the site between Golborne Street and Lee Street, where, amongst many other buildings, Heathside School and the old fire station used to stand. But the multi-storey car park was only one part of the major town centre development. Many areas of the town are to meet with a number of changes. Much of Sankey Street will be demolished. It will also be pedestrianised. The new market was completed in 1974 and opened for trading shortly afterwards. Wide aluminium-framed glass entrance doors welcome shoppers to the sales hall, which have been designed to overcome all the bad features of the old market. The new market is not only larger than the old, but is much more efficient in its use of space, with wide gangways and attractive stalls. "1974 was an eventful year. Reorganisation of local government caused the old county borough to become the much enlarged borough of Warrington in the county of Cheshire. The building replacement programme continued, and by 1978 the development of the town centre was well advanced. The Marketgate development was completed in 1984, and today there's a facade of shops sweeping round Horsemarket Street. The architects of the redevelopment have taken great care planning for the new buildings, specifying that when completed, they should complement the imposing buildings that make up the circus at Marketgate. The shopping arcade has been in use for some time, whilst development outside continues. Building workers take great care outside the Barley Mow Inn, the building which is to be preserved, which dates back to 1561. And besides, it's the nearest place to get a drink after work. Warrington was fortunate indeed that the completion of the Northwest Quadrant development could be marked by a royal visit. Their Royal Highnesses Prince Charles and Princess Diana visited Warrington on May the 30th, 1984. Huge crowds gathered around the Golden Square shopping centre, jockeying for position in order to get a good view of the royal couple. As ever, Princess Di steals the scene. The brass band provides music in the glorious sunshine, as the granite statue, which is a scene from Alice in Wonderland, the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, is unveiled. After which their Majesties perform their final duty of signing the visitors' book. The crowds have waited so long, but in a moment, it's all over, and soon the only ones left are the larger-than-life-size characters at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. The monument is to acclaim the local association of Lewis Carroll, author of Alice in Wonderland. In a town that has undergone so much change, yet has maintained so many links with its industrious, poetic past, it would be impossible to present fully the many areas, people and events in the time allowed by this programme. changes continue to happen, bringing for some a feeling of insecurity and for others a sense of pride and achievement. Warrington has progressed from a town on the Ford to Warrington, a town of the future.